Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to cover the S3 static website lab on AWS Educate. To begin, make sure that you're logged into the AWS Management Console, which is right here. Once you get here, you want to click on Services on the top left, and under Storage, go to S3. This will bring you to the S3 dashboard. You should be able to see any S3 buckets you've created in the past, or if you don't have any, should be blank. So, before we begin, we should go over what S3 buckets actually are. The best way to think of buckets are containers or storage spaces on AWS where you can upload just about anything. These are object-based storage spaces, so they're not block storage or file storage necessarily. So you can upload just about anything and reference those specific objects. So what we're going to do with the bucket is we're going to upload the files necessary for a very basic static website and then run it off the bucket. So this kind of showcases that we don't actually need a web server to run a website. However, we are limited to what we can do with it, and that's why we can only run a static website. So what we're going to do is create a bucket. You can click on the create bucket on the top right, or use the create bucket button in the middle. The first thing you'll be asked to do is enter a bucket name. The bucket name has to be unique across all of AWS. This means that everybody following this tutorial should not copy the exact name that I'm going to put in here, but you're more than welcome to come up with your own. So I'm going to just type in Cypress College S3 static website, and maybe I'll just give a random number. This is just to make it unique. Notice that I can't use any spaces, so I use a hyphen instead. You also can't use uppercase letters, so it has to be all lowercase. I'm going to leave the region as default. And under settings, when you scroll down under block public access settings for this bucket, you'll notice that by default, buckets block all public access to the bucket, right? Since we're building a website, we want to make it available to the public, so we're going to uncheck this and then continue. Everything else we can leave as it is and hit the create bucket button. Looks like we do need to acknowledge the risk with opening up the bucket to the public before moving on. And when creating your buckets, keep in mind that opening it up to the public is not always the best idea. Be mindful of what you're putting into the bucket, and change your permissions according to that. All right. So once it's created, we're gonna go ahead and click on the bucket itself, and we're gonna change some settings here to make it um, to allow it to host a static website. So what we're going to do is go to properties, and notice here that we can change a lot of the settings that we were able to set up during the creation of the bucket. But if you scroll to the very bottom, you'll see that we have a setting called static website hosting, and by default it is disabled. We're going to click on edit, and then change it to enabled. We're going to leave it as a static website on the hosting type, and then we have to specify the default index document or page. For us, it will be index.html, so we'll leave that. We don't need to specify an error page, and if we wanted to, we could also set up redirection rules, but we're going to leave it as is. Save changes, and the bucket should not be able to host a static website. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is go to objects and upload the actual files. So we don't have the files yet, so we should probably go download those. The lab does provide some files that you can use, so we're going to go to that URL right now. It is tinyurl.com/s3 static. You'll get the prompt to save the file, or it might just download automatically. I'm going to save the zip file to my downloads folder. And once you download it, make sure to extract it. I use 7-zip, so I'll extract it with that method. Once you extract the compressed files in the zip folder, you'll want to upload them to the S3 bucket. So we're going to click upload, or on the top right, upload. And you can choose add files or add folder, and you can browse your file system to choose which files to upload. Or more simply, you can actually you can drag and drop whatever files you want to upload into the S3 bucket. So I'm going to highlight the extracted files and then drag them onto the browser. You'll notice that they all get listed here. Then I'm going to hit upload. But before I do, actually, I want to show you guys something. So the permissions by default will make them private, which we'll leave for now. Under properties, you'll notice that we can enable server-side encryption on the files. We got tags and metadata specific to those files. But more importantly, we can choose the storage class of the files, or objects, I want to say. Think of each file as an object in this S3 bucket. So the default class is standard, so this is for frequently accessed data, right? Essentially, you can choose different storage classes that could save you money in the long run, because you do get charged by the amount of objects that you have in an S3 bucket. However, let's say if you have something that's not frequently accessed, such as archives or backups, it might help to place them under Glacier, right, instead of standard, where the retrieval time might take a little longer, but in the long run, since you're not frequently accessing these objects, it'll save you money because it is cheaper to use a Glacier than a standard S3 bucket. If you want to see more details about the pricing, you can actually click the Amazon S3 pricing link, and you can see exactly what the pricing is for your region. So you can see here that it does get cheaper if you use the Glacier and the infrequent access tiers. So something to keep in mind, of course. What kind of objects are you uploading, and choose the appropriate storage classes for them. Considering that this is going to be a frequently accessed website, we're going to leave it as standard, and then we're going to click upload. Once done, you can go ahead and hit close. You should be able to now see the objects in your S3 bucket, including the directory and the files inside it. Okay. So notice that when we uploaded the files, we had the option to make them public, which is ideally what we would want for our website, to make it accessible to the public. However, we didn't, so that we can kind of look into how permissions work on a S3 bucket. So we're going to go over to the permissions tab on the top, and notice here that objects can be public, and that we're not blocking any public access. However, the individual files are still private, so if someone tried to access the files, they would still be unreadable, right? They will still get a permission denied error. So what we want to do is actually use bucket policy to change it. So we're going to click on edit, and notice that here we can enter JSON permissions, essentially, to change the permissions on the bucket and all the objects in it as well. So the lab does provide one for you. However, it's good practice to not just learn how to write it, but also to know that there's tools to help you. So if you notice here, there's a policy generator. If you click it, it'll open a new tab where you can specify what you want to do, what you're trying to accomplish, and it'll write the policy for you, and then you can copy and paste it. So we're going to change the type of policy to S3 bucket, because that's the type of policy we're trying to write. We're going to allow, that's the effect. Notice that we can also deny permissions, right? But right now we're trying to allow public access, so we're going to select allow. Principal is where you choose who is affected by these permissions. Asterisk means everyone, essentially. So AWS calls it anonymous users, but it's just another way of saying the public or everybody. So the AWS service, we're going to keep on Amazon S3. And then the action that we're trying to allow uh, to read um, the objects in the bucket, we got to grant get object permission. So we're going to select get object, and then we got to specify which resource this will apply to. So we need to get the ARN from from our bucket. So if you come to the bucket, you'll see that the book ARN is listed right here. We can copy it and then paste it in here. And notice that we got to specify a key name after the ARN. So you do a / and then you got to specify which object or the path to which object you want to allow access. Since we want to allow access to all the files for the website, we're going to use another asterisk or a wildcard essentially. So this means everything, right? Now we're going to click add statement, and then we have our one statement set. Notice that we can create multiple statements into one um, policy. But for now, this should do it. We're going to generate policy, and it's going to generate the JSON that we need for the policy to grant access to all files. So we're going to go ahead and copy that and paste it here and save changes. Okay. Okay, now that we're all done setting up the bucket, uploading the website files, setting up permissions, and enabling static website hosting, now it's time to actually test it out. So if you go into your bucket and go to the index file, you'll notice that there's an object URL that we can use to connect to this page. So we're going to go ahead and copy that. In a new tab, paste it and connect to see if it is working properly. And notice that we get the default index page from the files that we uploaded. So that means we're able to successfully access the index file, and it is working as a static web page, as you can see here. So if you're able to see this, that means you completed the lab correctly, and that should be it. There is a few questions at the end of the lab that you should answer before you finish up. But once you are done, we should clean up our lab or our workspace now that we're done with it. So once you're done, what you want to do is go to your bucket and select all your files and then delete them. Notice that you have to type in permanently delete to confirm. Once deleted, click close, and now we're going to delete the bucket itself. So you're going to select it and then click delete. You got to type in the name of the bucket to confirm. So we're going to type in the name. Then we're going to hit delete, and we have successfully deleted the bucket. All right, that is it for today's lab. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.